something keeps happening. Another one of the tactics chuds use on a regular basis, any chance they get. When something like, I don't know, She-Hulk twerks with Megan Thee Stallion, they'll start throwing Stan Lee's name around, right? He's rolling in his grave right now, or he wouldn't have stood for this. They like to bring that out now and then. It's the aesthetic of hardcore fandom and having a strong opinion. If you missed the YouTube short that I put out about that, we can check it out here.
He almost tasted that. Num 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 num, eat it up. Okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't. Never gotta heat me up. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't never gotta heat me up. Okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't never gotta heat me up. Tasted that. Num num num, eat it up. Okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't never gotta heat me up.
So there's a couple of examples in that little video of people using Stan Lee's name, you know, to say he'd be ashamed or whatever the hell.
How the hell would they know? They do this with Jesus too, don't they? Every little thing that they don't like, it's like Jesus would hate that too.
I guess in that way they are kind of right. Like Stan Lee is, you know, pretty influential the same way Jesus was. But no, yeah, they love to use the names of dead people to push their agenda, right? It's really easy to just use literally the name of a dead person that's got a lot of respect attached to their name, and just throw that out there as a really lazy, easy way to try and, you know, get clout or push your agenda or whatever.
Oh my God.
So this made me mad to be a Marvel fan. Stan Lee turning over in his grave. A lot of run-on sentences and poor punctuation here. I know Stan Lee is turning in his grave for what Marvel Studios has done. This episode, blah, blah, blah. Stan Lee would be turning in his grave. I can only imagine. See, just the same shit over and over again.
It's the same thing. Like, holy crap. And you guys bitch about writing and creativity and original stories. Holy crap.
But once again, Mark Brooks has been a real champion on Twitter lately. You know, and I don't just like show examples of him because he's my favorite artist and he was kind enough to come on this channel. It's that he's probably the most well-known Marvel artist creator that is just constantly, you know, taking the fight to chuds. I knew Stan Lee, not super well, but enough to be around him a decent amount, and enough that he remembered my name each time I saw him. Also enough that he wouldn't be turning over in his grave. If anything, he'd be twerking with them.
Nice.
And yeah, and I think that's accurate, you know. Now, it could just be easy for chuds to go, well, you're just using his name, blah, 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 now, whatever. But that's not the case. You've got, right here, you've got a photo from, I think, the 80s. Stan Lee posed nude. You know, he didn't actually show anything, but there he is, clearly happy to be naked on a couch.
I hope that's Playgirl.
It wasn't. It was like for some Marvel magazine or something. But, you know, the fact that he's holding a Marvel and DC, I guess Batman, Hulk, weird. But okay, there's that. Then there's also, he was in Mallrats.
Here you are now, a legend in the field. Probably had a slew of women since her, am I right?
Oh, lots of women. Jagger and me, we had a running contest to see who had the most. Matter of fact, last time I looked, I was way ahead.
Damn, that's hot!
Where a character is obsessed with the genitals and sex lives of superheroes.
Fantastic Four, Reed Richards. Can his whole body stretch? I mean, every part, you know, like his...
I know what you mean.
Brody, he actually asks Stan Lee several questions about superhero genitals.
The Thing. Is his dork made of orange rock like the rest of his body?
It's a superhero secret.
You know, Stan Lee read that script and agreed to be in the movie.
I think you ought to get him some help. He seems to be really hung up on superhero sex organs.
It's a Kevin Smith movie, by the way.
Yeah, not only that, he struck up a relationship with Kevin Smith. They liked each other. They worked together again several times, I believe.
And in the early 2000s, Stan Lee created Stripperella.
Stripperella! Stripperella, welcome to the first network for men.
Stan Lee created you for us.
Well, not just for us, but for millions of horny guys like us.
Is an adult animated show on Spike TV.
It's perfect.
Oh, it's genius.
And it features such amazing
Character development?
Bingo.
Are you guys done staring at my character development?
Pamela Anderson was the voice, but yeah, he created this character who's essentially a stripper superhero.
You're a stripper
And a superhero.
The other thing that I was going to mention was in the first Deadpool movie, Stan Lee's cameo was...
Hey, coming onto our stage right now, give it up for Chastity.
a DJ at the strip club. Then he's on record. You can find where he was quoted after that saying that, jokingly saying he was mad about that because he didn't actually get to film it in a real strip club. And he said, next time I'm going to do it in a real strip club. And you put all this stuff together and you see why it's silly for people to be using some fake notion of Stan Lee's purity, you know, like as if he's some puritanical Christian who would be, oh my God, I can't believe She-Hulk's twerking. So whenever Mark Brooks says he would probably be twerking with them, he's not wrong. Probably the only thing that would have prevented Stan Lee from doing that is his age if he was alive.
Yeah. That would have been his cameo.
There you go. There's that. Debunked. If you see anybody using Stan Lee's name in that way, I don't know. Tell them to...
Why do you hate comics? Just ask them that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's anti-fandom, right? Like it's anti-fandom defined. They sometimes give me an example like this where it just sums up the reason I call them anti-fans. Because they're engaging with this stuff, whereas a non-fan would just ignore it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't like She-Hulk. I don't like that she twerked. Whatever. I don't care about that. That's a non-fan.
Yeah.
A fan is, might say, oh, I thought it was awesome. Or in my case, I thought it was pretty amusing. I didn't laugh my ass off at the twerking thing, but it was an amusing post-credit thing. No reason to be offended by it for sure. But then you get people like this. Stan Lee was a Christian, probably would have not approved of twerking in a show kids watch. I don't know if any of you can spot what's wrong with that statement. As Mark Brooks called out, Stan was Jewish, literally not a Christian. And it's more than obvious to anybody. Like a cursory glance of information about Stan Lee would tell you this. So that's what I mean by an anti-fan, where this person has an opinion on this shit, and it's a very pointed and very seemingly passionate opinion. But he's not a fan of Stan Lee, and he's not. So it's really just using his name to push this agenda. And then, whereas before this tweet, I could just kind of jokingly say that they're being puritanicals about this or whatever. Then this guy just drives home the point for me by tying up his Christian agenda into a guy who was known to be Jewish and known to have a history of being a goofball.
It could be a verb, it could be a noun, it could be anything. Say, that fucking thing, that's no good, Or you can say, fuck you, that makes it a verb, right? There's no sentence where you couldn't use it to great advantage. And I'm going to start a movement. I want to legalize and legitimize the word fuck. One of the great words in any language.
This is just becoming a thing where, it's been a thing, I guess, but it's just become really obvious to me in the last few days, because not only are they doing it with Stan Lee regarding She-Hulk, they're doing it with Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And then just a general statement on that. DJ Eric's Reloaded. I'm so tired of seeing people use turning in their graves when speaking for deceased people on properties that have evolved over time. Stop speaking for people who are no longer with us. It's not the flex you think it is. 100%. And not just is it speaking for someone who's not here to speak, but in the cases of Tolkien and Stan Lee and probably other ones, they're not even representing that person correctly. I've seen people saying that Tolkien intended for all of the characters in Middle Earth to be white. And if you can find me anywhere that he ever said that in any of his books, any of his work, I don't know. I'll bring you on the stream and apologize to you personally. But he didn't. 100% this. Most times it's a casual fan, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term. There are people that definitely use that, like, oh, you're just a casual. And it's like, no, I don't think it should be a derogatory necessarily. It's only becomes a negative thing in my mind whenever you're speaking with authority about something that you clearly don't know what you're talking about.
The fuck's going on here?
It comes from casual fans who just know the name of an IP creator, but nothing about the creator's views or much about the lore itself. And they do it for clout on social media or an agenda. It's the aesthetic of hardcore fandom and having a strong opinion when you're really just throwing shit out there. Chuds like to say that, don't they? That Lord of the Rings is supposed to be pure escapism. So what does that say about what you think? Do you want to escape from people of color? Is that what that implies? Yeah. If somebody says that, like, why do you feel like you have to escape them, man? Like, it's just like, oh man, I just want to, it's bad enough I have to see people of color in the real world. I just want to turn on my TV and forget they exist. Like,
fuck you. Fucking fantastic. You get that fist up in the air, you weren't looking, your head was down. I want your head up when I throw my fist in the air. I want you paying attention. I don't want you looking there when I'm emoting. Jesus. Excelsior!